Hello, and welcome to the podcast series entitled In the Footsteps of St. Francis de Sales. My name is Father John O'Neill, and I am an oblate of St. Francis de Sales. It is my pleasure to be your host as we journey in the footsteps of this great saint. In this podcast, we will focus on the Church of St. Francis de Sales in Annecy, which is now associated with the Italian community in that city, and which was originally attached to the second monastery of the Visitation as its chapel. The church is located prominently in the Place Saint-François de Sales, next to the Quai du Semnoz. As can be noted on the plaque outside the church, St. Jane established the chapel in 1636, and as you look at the outside of the church building, you can still see attached to it on the left a section of the structure which would have been the actual monastery residence of the Visitation. During the French Revolution, the sisters were expelled from the monastery, and the structure was used as a military barracks. In 1794, the property was turned into a factory, and then in 1812 converted into shops and apartments. It wasn't until 1923 that building was restored to its original religious purpose and became the Church of St. Francis de Sales. As you stand in the back of the church, you can see the typical layout of a cloistered monastery chapel of the 17th century, with the main altar positioned in the apse in such a manner that the sisters could participate in the celebration of the Eucharist from the left side of the chapel, behind the large arch of the cloister's former grille. The original grille has since been removed, and the space filled in as part of the wall with a table and statue now in front. The main body of the chapel would have been open to the public for Mass and other religious services, which the sisters would also participate. The main altar is certainly reflective of the artistic influences of the Baroque era, which is done in a lofty and ornate style. The tombs of St. Francis de Sales on the left and that of St. Jane de Chantal on the right were placed at the head of each aisle and remained there from 1648 until 1793. During this period following the French Revolution of 1789, the remains of both St. Francis de Sales and St. Jane de Chantal were kept in a safe location in a space between the ceiling and upper floor of a home at the end of the lake until they could be returned to the monastery in Annecy. Their remains in Annecy were replaced by those of two poor Clare sisters. At the present time, the relics of the two saints are located in the monastery of the Visitation on the Rue de la Visitation above Annecy. The Sisters of the Visitation of Annecy were residing in this monastery at the time of the beatification of St. Francis de Sales in 1661, as well as for his canonization in 1665, both of which occurred during the papacy of Alexander VII. The sisters were also living at this location for the beatification of St. Jane de Chantal in 1751 under Pope Benedict XIV, and also for her canonization in 1767 under Pope Clement XIII. All of these ceremonies would have taken place at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. To the left of the main sanctuary can be viewed another of the former grilles of the cloister, which may have been used on occasion to interact with visitors or other members of the public. Some close-ups and other artworks worthy of mention on viewing include the following. The image of St. Francis de Sales as Bishop and Doctor of the Church. And then there's also a portrait of St. Francis done on the occasion of his being declared a Doctor of the Church in 1877. Also located there, nearby, is a portrait of St. Francis pointing to the crucifix. And there's also a rendering of St. Jane's apotheosis, or elevation of her soul into heaven. Also located is one of the symbols of the Visitation, which is the double pierced heart of Jesus and Mary with the crown of thorns. And then if you look closely above the main altar, there is the same double pierced heart symbol of the Visitation. At the base of the altar, there is a plaque indicating the construction of the main altar, which took place in 1695. In the event that you have not taken the podcast tour of the Church of St. Maurice and you have the time for a brief visit, the church is located very nearby, and there is a separate podcast that can assist you for that visit. This now concludes our visit to the second monastery chapel of the Visitation, and presently rededicated as the Church of St. Francis de Sales. Thank you for joining me on this brief tour, and I hope you will continue your journey in the footsteps of this great saint, both historically and spiritually, in some one of the other podcasts available in this series.